Yay.
Welcome back, everybody. So, do Democrats really have something on Donald Trump? Or is this special counsel just another witch hunt? There you go. We're going to talk to Hogan Gidley, former White House Deputy Press Secretary, AFPI Vice Chair of the Center for Election Integrity, and Pam Bondi, former Florida Attorney General and AFPI Justice and Law Co-Chair. Pam Bondi, former Attorney General, I'll call you General Bondi. What do you make of this special counsel 3 days after he gives his speech? They come down. I guess some things in life are predictable, but what do you make of it?
I really can't believe they did this 3 days after he announced. But I can, because I defended him on impeachment round 1, acquitted. Then he had impeachment round 2, acquitted. Then the whole Mueller investigation exonerated him. It's constant, Larry, what they are doing to this man. No one in the history of our country has taken more incoming than Donald Trump. No one. And he's not going to back down. And I think when he announced, they said, well, let's make one more run at him. They're going after his children. You've got Letitia James in New York. It's constant. And people need to realize their tax dollars are paying for this witch hunt.
Yes.
Our tax dollars are paying for these multiple witch hunts. And, you know, Congress, what's Congress going to do? They're going to fund this special prosecutor? They're going to give money to DOJ?
That's key. Okay. Absolutely. We got today, Lauren Boebert is going to win, has won in Colorado. Republicans will have 222 votes in the House.
Great win.
Which gives them some elbow room.
Right.
That's as good as Pelosi ever had, maybe even slightly better. What will they do, Hogan Gidley? What do you think? How will Republicans react to that? And by the way, do they have to fund this? Is this an appropriations?
Well, he's going to need extra money to it for a special prosecutor. When you have a special prosecutor, think how the millions. You know, when they impeached him the first time in 2020 for abuse of power, for the one phone call about Hunter Biden with President Zelensky. Remember that trash? We sat there for weeks, and it took months dealing with this. How many millions of dollars did that cost the American people then?
What's funny to me is here, Merrick Garland, I don't know how he has the time. When he talks so much about what he's working on calling all the parents who care about their child's education domestic terrorists, when he's busy, weaponizing three-letter agencies against private citizens, I guess he's going to throw out a special prosecutor as well and make sure he oversees that in this instance, too. Look, they attacked Donald Trump before he was president. They attacked him while he was president. They've been attacking him since he's been president. And now that he's announced, they're attacking him again. It's so ridiculous to go after a political opponent in this way of Joe Biden's. When you have things like Hunter Biden on camera committing crimes, not talking about that at all, we're going to do a special prosecutor on Donald Trump's alleged involvement in anything is absolutely insane.
You don't think there'll be any leaks, do you, from this during the campaign?
Of course not.
Shock.
Have you noticed
transparent?
But the leaks never benefit us. Have you noticed that? The algorithms on Twitter, they never benefit us. The leaks about bad economic news we had in the White House, it never was positive, like we had more jobs. It was always like we had less.
Larry, I think the American people, though, see through this. I think they finally see through this. I mean, it's on and on and on.
Pam, let me ask you, though. Here are the three charges, okay? Retention of classified documents, obstruction of the investigation into classified documents, and finally, stopping the peaceful transfer of power. Those are the three charges. Now, it may be broader than that, but from the reports today, in the last few hours, okay, classified documents, obstructing classified documents, and somehow stopping the peaceful transfer of power, the January 6th committee stuff. As a former state AG, what do you make of those things?
Well, as to the classified documents, President Trump said he declassified them. What about Hillary Clinton? And not to deflect, but none of these people, Barack Obama walked away with documents. Hillary Clinton bleach-bit her own computer to intentionally destroy documents. President Trump had documents. He was working with them. They were coming to Mar-a-Lago. They were meeting with his attorneys. Yet now they're going after him on this. It's absolutely ridiculous what they're doing. And the peaceful transition of power, he left the White House. He packed up. He left. I don't even understand that.
But also, what was the J6 committee all about?
Right.
The taxpayer funds that the whole time saying they had the goods. They had the goods. Watch what we're going to do. We're going to draw a clear connection between Donald Trump and January 6th, even though down the street a few blocks, they're actually holding a trial against the Proud Boys, saying they're the ones who actually instigated the whole thing. It's all backwards. It's all contradictory on its face. And it's another Waste of taxpayer dollars for sure, but it's a waste of time. People in this country are hurting. They're facing real issues. And this is what your Democrat Congress is trying to do. And thankfully, the cavalry's coming. Help is on the way, and they don't have the gavel anymore.
Can I add one thing to that, Larry? You said as a former state AG. This is the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, of the United States of America. We have a drug crisis in our country now. We have a human trafficking crisis bigger than ever because 500,000 people, they are predicting now that Title 42 is going away, are coming through this border. It's constant, yet they're not doing anything on that. All of these resources could be saving children's lives from drug overdoses. It could be protecting women from human trafficking. It could be protecting our borders. It's unreal to me, the political witch hunt that continues.
They, on this Title 42, which will expire now in 5 weeks.
Yes.
That's the last day, 5 weeks. Hogan, Gidley, they have no backup policy, the Bidens. So, you know, these numbers are being bandied about. An extra 2 million, an extra 3 million. It's not unreal. I mean, this is going to be a potential catastrophe. They have no backup policy. They just deny that the border is open. You know, and Pam's point about drugs and fentanyl, they have no backup policy on that either.
No, they don't. And they try to pretend as though these problems aren't happening. That's one of the issues, of course, that the border's secure. They try and lie to the American people when we know different. But whether it's the economy, whether it's a southern border, whatever the issue is, Joe Biden pretends as though these things are happening to him. They're happening because of him. And when he throws up his hands and says, hey, we can't get energy back. I don't know what you guys are. We can't flip a switch. We can't fix the southern border. All you have to do is go back to the policies that were working just 2 years ago. You wouldn't have to point back to Reagan anymore and say, look at how great it was in the 80s, although you were a big part of that, and it was great in the 80s, Larry Kudlow. But it was just a few years ago. We don't have to look far. We were succeeding in all of the areas that Joe Biden is failing in now, and he's the one to blame.
The courts are stopping the student loan cancellation, Attorney General Bondi.
Yes.
Now, that is a good thing, I would think.
Yes.
The Bidens will try to fight it, but actually, I think the loans they should start the repayment of the loans. Like soon, now that the courts have ruled.
Agree.
This is a rare good thing.
Agree. It's a great good thing, and they should. Why should, as Kellyanne says, why should a cab driver have to pay off the student loans of a cardiologist? That's what's happening. We are all paying off student loans of everyone without them even asking for the forgiveness because they think they're going to get their votes.
And can we not call it student loan forgiveness?
Right.
It's not forgiveness or cancellation. Someone's paying for that, so it's not canceled on the rest of us.
Drivers paying.
That's exactly right. And so what he's saying is,
working folks,
the people who didn't go to college are now forced to pay for those who did. It's absolutely backwards.
It costs $1 trillion, which is inflationary. I mean, that's what the outside. $500 billion to $1 trillion. But I'm kind of proud of the courts for doing this because it's a steady drumbeat.
Sure.
But the thing is, the Bidens have to enforce this now. In other words, the payments, which were stopped for COVID, have to go and begin.
That's right.
So the wealthy have to pay. And furthermore, there's no COVID emergency, Hogan Gidley.
Right.
That's what the president says. COVID emergency is over, which means his justification, General Bondi, is gone.
Right.
There's no emergency power because there's no emergency.
Right.
Do I have that right?
Gone. You sure do.
These are not growthier policies, are they, Larry? They're not very growthier.
They're anti-growth.
Anti-growth.
We want to be stewards of economic growth. He wants to be stewards of socialism.
No question.
I mean, listen.
And the American people are suffering.
All right, they're counting us down.
Okay.
7, 6, 5, 4. Pam Bondi and Hogan Gidley. That was good, kids. That was very good.